The hallway moment no one noticed said the hallway smelled like old lights and fresh coffee. It was early, before the crew came in, before makeup artists started their gentle war against sleep and reality. The silence was rare in a Hollywood studio. But Ana de Armas liked these quiet mornings. She could hear her own breath. She could feel her feet on the ground. For a moment she wasn't Ana, the actress. She was just Ana, but this morning was different. She stood near the studio door, script pages trembling slightly in her hand. It wasn't the cold. It was something else. Doubt, fear. She had spent the whole night memorizing the lines, trying to find the rhythm of her character, but something wasn't clicking. Something inside her kept whispering that she didn't belong here, that maybe they had made a mistake casting her. The movie was important. Big budget, high expectations. And her co-star was Keanu Reeves. Just thinking of his name added pressure. Not because he was intimidating, he wasn't, but because he was respected, loved, trusted. He carried every scene with quiet power. He never demanded attention, yet all eyes always followed him. Ana had watched him closely during rehearsals. He never raised his voice, never showed frustration. And he always remembered everyone's name, from the director to the guy who swept the floor. She admired that, envied it even. But this morning, as she stood there frozen, something cracked inside her. Her breath quickened, her eyes welled up. She didn't want to cry, but she felt it coming. She turned around, trying to hide her face, when she heard footsteps behind her. She expected a crew member, or maybe the assistant director. But it wasn't either. It was Keanu. He didn't say anything at first. Just walked beside her, hands in his pockets, eyes kind but calm. He looked at the trembling script in her hand, then looked at her. "Tough morning?" he asked softly. She nodded, biting her lip. Keanu didn't ask what was wrong. He didn't need to. Instead, he sat down on the nearby bench and gently patted the spot next to him. Ana hesitated, then sat down. For a while, they just sat there, not talking, just breathing. Finally, Keanu pulled a small thermos from his coat. He poured some tea into the cap and offered it to her. "Jasmine," he said. "Helps calm nerves." Ana accepted it with shaky hands. The warmth of the cup steadied her. "You ever feel like you don't belong?" she asked. Keanu looked at her, and for the first time she saw something deeper in his eyes, something older, something tired but kind. "Every day," he replied. Ana blinked. "But you're you," she said. "You've done everything. People love you," he smiled. Not the big screen kind of smile. Just a small, real one. "That doesn't mean I don't question myself," he said. "The pressure doesn't disappear. You just learn to walk with it." Ana looked down at the script again. "I'm afraid I'll ruin this," she whispered. Keanu leaned forward, his voice low. "Ana, you were chosen for a reason. Not because you were perfect, because you were real, honest. People see that. I see that." His words hit deeper than she expected. She didn't know why, but tears rolled down her cheeks, and he didn't look away. He just offered her a tissue from his jacket pocket. "You don't have to prove anything to anyone," he said. "Just be true in the moment. The rest will follow." That was it. No lecture. It's no big speech. Just presence. Just kindness. Ana wiped her tears and took a deep breath. Something inside her shifted. That moment didn't make the headlines. No cameras were rolling. No one even knew it happened. But Ana remembered, because in that silent hallway, when everything felt like too much, Keanu didn't try to fix her. He just stood beside her, and sometimes that's all anyone needs. That was the beginning, and Ana never forgot it. The silence behind the Cineth first take was quiet. Too quiet. Ana walked onto the set with her lines ready and her heart beating like a drum. The studio lights were warm, almost too bright, and the hum of the cameras felt like thunder against her chest. The crew adjusted their gear. The director gave last-minute notes, and the clapperboard clicked with a snap that echoed in her ears. But inside, Ana was somewhere else. She was still holding that morning moment with Keanu in her heart, like a fragile glass. He hadn't given her confidence with some magic trick. He had simply made her feel seen, not as a performer, but as a person. Action, the director called. The scene was delicate. Her character had to break down in front of Keanu's. It was raw and vulnerable. No stunts, no special effects. It's just human emotion. It was what she had trained for, but today it felt different. Deeper Anna stepped forward. Her voice came out shaky, but it fit the character. The words were simple, but they carried weight. And Keanu stood in front of her, calm as ever. Not acting, just being. There was something in his stillness that made it easier for her to break. The take ended, and the silence that followed was sharp. Anna blinked. Then slowly, the crew clapped, not loud. Not for show, just a soft ripple of hands that said everything. Anna looked down, stunned, but Keanu only gave her a small nod, almost like a quiet handshake that said, "I told you so." Still, he didn't say a word about what she had done. Didn't praise her, he didn't hug her or celebrate, and strangely that made it more real. Over the next few days, Anna started noticing things. Keanu arrived early, left late, and always found a way to make others feel lighter. Never loud, never commanding. Carried water bottles for grips who looked tired. He stood in the sun while others waited in the shade. And when one of the extras got a nosebleed from the heat, Keanu was the first to kneel beside him with tissues. In cool water, nobody asked him to do these things. He just did, and he never looked for the camera. Anna found herself watching him more closely now. Not as a star, but as a human being. She noticed how he always let others walk ahead of him. He never interrupted. How he listened, really listened when someone spoke. It was rare, too rare. One afternoon, during a short break, Anna walked into the break room and saw Keanu standing near the vending machine. He was trying to get a stuck packet of almonds, too. Drop. He tapped the machine gently. Nothing. Then he laughed softly and stepped back. "Machine's stubborn today," said Anna smiled. "Maybe it's nervous around you," she said. He chuckled. "Maybe." There was a pause. Anna leaned against the counter and looked at him. "Do you ever get tired of being nice?" she asked. Keanu raised an eyebrow. "Being kind," he said. She nodded. "Yeah, people expect it from you. Doesn't that feel heavy sometimes?" He thought about it for a moment. "I don't do it because people expect it," he said. "I do it because I remember how it feels when no one notices you, when no one helps. I've been there." Anna looked at him, her throat tight. "So have I," she whispered. Keanu nodded slowly. "Then we do what we can. For others, even when no one sees it." She wanted to ask more. She wanted to ask about his past, his pain, the stories that made him this way. But she didn't. Because something told her he gave pieces of himself only when people were ready to receive them. And right now, he was giving her enough. Later that week, something happened. Anna was walking toward her trailer when she overheard a conversation between two junior crew members. "Honestly, I think she's trying too hard," one of them said. "Yeah," the other replied. "Like she's scared to mess up in front of Keanu." They laughed. Anna stopped. Her chest tightened. She stood behind the corner, frozen. She wasn't supposed to hear that, but now she had. And it stung. Not because they were cruel, but because deep down, she feared they were right. For a moment, the confidence she had built over the past few days started to unravel. But then, shadow fell across her shoulder. She turned. Keanu was standing there. Holding 2 cups of tea, he had heard it too, but his face didn't show anger, just understanding. He handed her a cup. "Jasmine," said again. Anna held it close to her chest, blinking back heat behind her eyes. "Why does it hurt so much?" she asked. He took a slow sip. "Because you care." "But they don't even know me," she said. Keanu nodded. "That's why it doesn't matter," he said gently. "They speak from their own fears, not yours." Anna stared at the wall, her breath shallow. "How do you do it?" she asked. "How do you walk through all this noise and still stay kind?" He didn't answer right away. Then he said something she never forgot. "I don't try to be kind," he said. "I try to be true to who I want to be." no matter who's watching. Anna swallowed hard. That night, she wrote it down in her journal. Be true. Not just kind. And beside it, she drew a small cup of tea, because she knew kindness wasn't loud. It didn't beg for thanks, but it stayed with you long after the moment passed. The weight of the mirror inside Anna's trailer reflected more than just her face. It showed the fear behind her eyes, the pressure on her shoulders, the voice in her head that whispered she wasn't enough. She stared at herself, trying to hold it together. The shoot was reaching its halfway point. The story was becoming more intense. The scenes demanded more from her, more emotion, more truth, more vulnerability. The camera didn't lie, neither did the silence between takes. Anna had started to perform better. That much she could tell. The director nodded more often. The cinematographer adjusted less. The sound crew didn't stop rolling as frequently. But none of that stopped the voice in her head. It told her she was faking, it pretending to be confident, pretending to belong. And every time she looked in the mirror, she saw a girl who was still learning how to believe in herself. Then came a scene that changed everything. They were filming in a quiet park just outside the studio lot. It was a big scene, one of the emotional climaxes of the movie. Anna's character had to confront Keanu's, finally telling him the truth she had kept hidden the entire story. It was raw, intense, filled with regret and hope at the same time. Anna had read the scene dozens of times, but reading it and living it were different things. As the cameras rolled, she stood in the grass, the wind catching her hair. Keanu faced her, quiet, patient. She started her lines, but her voice caught, not from the cold, but from fear. Not acting fear, real fear. Her hands began to tremble. The director called. Cut. Anna looked down, heart racing. Take 5, someone said. Keanu walked over slowly. He didn't speak right away, just stood beside her. You okay? He finally asked. Anna nodded, but it wasn't honest. She started. Then stopped. He waited. I'm trying to feel it, she said. But it feels fake, like I'm reaching too hard. Keanu looked out over the trees. Sometimes, he said, we try so hard to show emotion that we forget to feel it. Anna looked at him, confused. What do you mean? He turned to her, soft eyes steady. You already know the truth of the scene, he said. You've lived it. You don't need to reach for it. Just remember it. She frowned. But I've never lived this exact moment. He nodded. But you've lived fear, shame, honesty. Just use that. Anna was silent. Acting, he said, isn't pretending. It's remembering. It's letting go of control and trusting the moment. Anna felt something click. Not a big explosion. Just a soft click. Like a door inside her opened. She stepped back into position. This time, she didn't think of the lines. She thought of the hallway. Of the voices behind her back. Of the girl in the mirror who felt like she wasn't enough. She looked at Keanu and let the fear rise in her chest, not to fight it, but to let it live. And then she spoke. Not with perfect tone, not with polished timing, but with truth. Her voice cracked, her eyes watered. Her body shook, and it was perfect, because it was real. The scene ended in silence, not a crew member moved. Then the director stood and whispered, We got it. Anna looked at Keanu. He smiled, just once, and that was more than enough that night. Anna sat in her trailer reading an old script from years ago, something she had held on to from her early acting days. The pages were worn, filled with notes in the margins. Circles, arrows, questions. What does she want? Why is she afraid? What is she hiding? Back then, she had thought the answers had to be smart, clever, technical. Now, she knew better. The answers didn't come from her brain. They came from her heart. She closed the script and stared at the ceiling. A knock on her door made her sit up. She opened it to find a small brown envelope on the floor. No one was around. She picked it up, opened it, and found a simple note inside. You were brave today. No name, no signature, just that. But she knew who it was from Keanu. Never said thank you. He never asked for praise, but he always gave what mattered. Most presence. Silence. The next morning, Anna walked onto set with a different energy. Not louder, not bigger, just steady. She knew she would still have hard days, but now she had something stronger than certainty. She had purpose. During lunch break, she found herself sitting beside Keanu. Neither of them spoke for a while. They just watched the crew move around them like dancers in a quiet rhythm. Then softly, Anna said, "Thank you." Keanu shook his head. "No need." "I know," she replied, "but I remember anyway." Looked at her, and for once, there was a flicker of emotion in his eyes he didn't hide. Not pride, not pity, something deeper, connection, double quotes that, said gently, is enough. The day everything almost fell apart, day started like any other on set, quiet crew chatter, camera cables curling like snakes on the ground, coffee brewing somewhere in the distance. But something felt off. Anna couldn't name it. She just felt it. She had learned to trust those instincts. The makeup chair felt colder than usual. The smiles felt a little more forced. Even the assistant director, usually full of energy, barely made eye contact. Anna looked around. Then she saw it. Keanu wasn't there. Not on set. Not in his trailer. Not anywhere it wasn't like him. He was always the first to arrive, even before the crew. Always walking through the lot with a paper cup and a gentle nod to whoever passed. Anna asked a production assistant, "Have you seen Keanu?" The assistant looked uncomfortable. "He called in this morning, said he needed the day off." Anna blinked. "Why?" The assistant shrugged. "No idea." But it wasn't just any. Today was the most important shoot in the film, the final confrontation scene. All cameras were set for it. The studio was watching. The producers had flown in. The pressure was higher than it had ever been. And Keanu was gone. Anna sat down, trying to steady her thoughts. She pulled out her phone to text him, then stopped. Something told her not to, not yet. As the hours passed, the director decided to rearrange the schedule. "We'll shoot B-roll until he returns," he announced. But even he didn't look convinced Keanu would come back today. Anna moved through her scenes, like a ghost walking, saying her lines, hitting her marks. But her mind wasn't there. It was with him. She remembered what he had told her in the hallway weeks ago. "You've lived it. Just remember it." So she tried to remember now. Not just the lessons, but the man behind them, the way he always checked in on the grips before checking his own script, the way he gave her silence when she needed space, the way he stood beside her when others looked away. Who stands beside someone like that, who gives without needing a spotlight? Only someone who's walked through pain and learned not to pass it on. Keanu Reeves never talked about his past. But Anna had read enough to know the loss of people he loved, the long periods of solitude, the battles he never put on camera, and yet he chose kindness over and over. So where was he now? The sun began to fall behind the studio walls. The sky turned orange, then soft purple. The shoot was nearly wrapped for the day. Keanu didn't come. The producer sighed and spoke to the director. Words like delays and reshoots floated in the air like dust. Anna felt a heaviness creep into her chest. Then her phone buzzed. A message from Keanu? It was short coffee. Parking lot. Now no emoji. No explanation. Just that. Anna grabbed her jacket and left her trailer. She crossed the lot, weaving between parked trailers and faded chalk marks on the pavement. Finally, near the far corner where the trucks were parked, she saw him, Keanu. He stood beside an old motorcycle. Holding 2 paper cups, he handed one to her as she approached. "I thought you might need this." He said. Anna didn't speak at first. "Then you scared me." He looked down, apologetic. "I know. Sorry, where were you?" Keanu took a slow breath. "I had to visit someone, an old friend. Someone who helped me once. Back when I was just trying to hold myself together." Anna looked at him. He didn't say more. He didn't need to. "You okay?" she asked. Keanu nodded. "Yeah." She needed to remember something. Who I am. Why I do this. Anna took a sip of the coffee. It was warm. Strong. Simple. "We missed you today," she said. Keanu smiled slightly. I miss being there, but it was the big scene. Why today? His voice dropped. Because today would have been my sister's birthday. Anna's heart sank. He had never spoken of her before. He didn't cry. He didn't shake. He just stood there, letting the memory live in his silence. She believed in me, he said. Even when I didn't, I used to bring her here. Let her watch the takes. She always said the most important scenes weren't the loud ones. They were the ones where you said everything without a single word. Anna's eyes watered. Keanu turned to her. That's what you did last week? That scene in the park? You said everything without forcing it? Because of you, she whispered. No, he said. Because of you, I just reminded you. Anna reached into her coat and pulled out the small brown envelope he had left in her trailer. She had kept it, folded gently in her wallet. She handed it back to him. This was yours, she said. He looked at it, then shook his head. No, he said. It was always yours. I just wrote what you already knew. Anna swallowed the lump in her throat. Then, for the first time since the shoot began, she stepped forward and hugged him. No cameras, no script, just a quiet thank you, wrapped in warmth. In memory, Keanu didn't speak. He didn't need to. Some people show up for others, when it's easy. But Keanu Reeves showed up when it was hard, even when he was the one who needed saving. And Anna would never forget that. Ever. The award no one saw coming. The filming came faster than anyone expected. The crew had grown quiet with the pressure. The studio executives were visiting more often. The editor had already begun cutting early footage, and the word was spreading. The film was good. Really good. But the magic wasn't in the budget or the set design. It was in the way the cast breathed life into every scene, especially Anna, and she knew exactly why her performances had changed. Not just improved, but deepened, raw, honest. Sometimes she'd look back at the monitor after a take and barely recognize herself, not because she looked different, but because she felt real. And through it all, Keanu never took credit. He just stood in the background, steady as ever, offering tea, offering silence, offering reminders of who she already was. On the final day, the last scene to shoot was the film's closing moment. It wasn't explosive. It wasn't dramatic. It was two characters sitting quietly at a train station, not speaking, just existing. But behind their stillness was the full story of everything they had survived. The scene had no dialogue, just expressions. Pauses. Glances. Diana sat beside Keanu on the wooden bench, listening to the crew move around them like shadows. The director whispered, "Let it live. Don't act. Just feel." Anna closed her eyes, letting the silence breathe. And then the camera rolled. A light breeze lifted her hair. Somewhere in the background, a train's distant whistle echoed. She looked at Keanu T. Didn't move, but his eyes told her everything. They were tired, but kind. They carried sorrow, but no bitterness. They saw her not just the character, but her. Anna let the emotion rise, slow and honest. A soft tear rolled down her cheek. Keanu reached out, not with force, not as part of the script, but gently, and touched her hand, just one quiet gesture, and the camera captured it all. When the director called cut, no one clapped. They just sat there, stunned by the honesty they had witnessed. Anna looked down at her hand. It was shaking. Keanu gave it a light squeeze, then stood up, leaving her with the moment. That was his gift. He never held on too long, just long enough. Weeks later, the premiere came. The theater was packed. Flashing lights, red carpet, fans screaming, cameras everywhere, but behind all the noise, Anna remembered something Keanu once said: "The most important scenes are never the loud ones." She walked the carpet with grace, smiling, answering questions. But her heart stayed anchored to a simple hallway on a quiet morning. The place where this journey had truly begun, inside the theater. The lights dimmed, the film played, scene after scene. The audience sat in complete silence, drawn in, holding their breath, and when the movie ended, the theater erupted in applause. Anna stood slowly. Overwhelmed, Keanu stood beside her. He didn't clap. He just looked at her and smiled. Months passed. Awards season arrived. Anna didn't expect anything. She had learned to keep her hopes small, to stay grounded. But then the nominations came in. Best Actress, her name was there, and people were talking. Not just about her beauty, not just about her rise, but about her honesty, about the truth. In her eyes, the pain in her pauses, the courage in her stillness. On the night of the awards, she sat nervously at the round table. Surrounded by actors she had once only admired from a distance, Keanu was there, quiet as ever. He had turned down an invitation to sit at the front, choosing instead to stay at the back with her near the edge of the spotlight. "You okay?" he asked as the camera panned. "No," she whispered. "I feel like I can't breathe." He handed her a single piece of hard candy from his coat pocket. "Peppermint helps," he said. She laughed, barely holding it together. Then her name was called, and the award for Best Actress goes to Ana de Armas. Her heart stopped. The world blurred. Applause thundered. And for a moment, she froze, until Keanu gently touched her shoulder and said, "Go get it. It's yours." Anna walked to the stage on legs that felt like paper. The lights blinded her. The golden statue felt heavier than she expected. But when she stood at the microphone, she didn't think of the crowds, or the producers, or even the cameras. She thought of the girl who almost cried in the hallway. She thought of the man who offered her tea instead of advice. And then, her voice steady, she said, "This is for the ones who believe quietly, who stand beside you without asking for attention. This is for the ones who remind you who you are, just by being who they are. I'm here because someone never asked for thanks. But I remember anyway." And in the back of the room, Keanu looked down, not to hide his tears, but to keep his heart still. He didn't smile. He didn't clap. He just closed his eyes, knowing his job was done and her journey had truly begun. Remembering always the after party was loud. The music echoed through the tall glass walls, and the sound of champagne glasses clinking filled every corner. People laughed, posed for pictures, gave each other hugs laced with compliments. Night was beautiful, sparkling with lights and awards and stories people would tell for years. But Anna couldn't stop thinking about the quiet things. She held her golden statue, daintily in her hands. But it was never about the gold. It was about the road that led her there, the hallway, the tea, the silence that helped her speak. Keanu didn't stay at the party long. He smiled when people greeted him, congratulated her one last time, and quietly stepped out into the night like he always did. Without making a sound, Anna watched him go. She didn't follow. Not because she didn't want to, because she understood. Now, some people appear in your life not to walk with you forever, but to show you the path so you can walk it yourself. A few weeks later, she sat by her window back in Los Angeles. The buzz of awards season had passed. Interviews were slowing down. The cameras had turned to other headlines, but her heart was still full. On the table beside her sat a notebook. The pages were filled now, not with lines from scripts, but with memories. She turned to one in the middle. It was from months ago written. After her first big breakdown on set, he didn't try to fix me. He just stood beside me. Somehow that was enough. She smiled, then flipped to the back page and began writing again this time. She didn't write about characters. She wrote about kindness, about the way it moved quietly through the world, not asking for thanks, not seeking reward, just choosing to show up again and again. Later that year, Yana was asked to speak at a private actor's workshop. A room full of young hopefuls, nervous and excited. Some reminded her of herself, wide-eyed, scared to mess up. She stood on stage with a calm smile. "I want to tell you a story," she said. And she did. Not about the awards. Not about fame, but about a hallway. About jasmine tea. About a man who never raised his voice, yet taught her more than anyone else. She didn't say his name. She didn't need to. The lesson wasn't about who he was. It was about how he was. She finished by saying, "You don't need to be loud to change someone's life. Sometimes standing beside them in silence is the loudest act of love." The room was quiet. One of the students in the back wiped tears from her eyes. Anna walked down from the stage, her heart full. The kindness that had been passed to her, she was passing it forward, and in that moment, she knew. She was no longer the girl who needed to be reminded. She had become the reminder. Years passed, the film became a classic. Interviews came and went, but every time Anna spoke of her journey, she always paused when someone asked her the real question, "What changed everything for you?" And she always gave the same answer. It wasn't a director, or a script, or a camera. It was a person. Someone who never asked for thanks. But I remember anyway. One rainy evening, Anna sat alone on her balcony, sipping jasmine tea. The city below was glowing with headlights and distant voices. She opened her notebook one more time. Inside, there was a folded piece of paper, soft at the edges from being held so many times. "You were brave." Today, she smiled, then closed the notebook. Holding it to her chest, she didn't cry, she didn't speak. She just remembered, and that was enough, because real kindness doesn't fade. It lingers in the quiet, it's the stillness, in the spaces between words. It lives in the people we carry with us long after the scene ends. Keanu Reeves never asked for thanks, but Ana de Armas remembered anyway.